Hello, welcome to place value powers of 10. And that's a very important number. And it's one that we're all familiar with because we have something that we use from the day that we were born, if we're all lucky, and that is 10 fingers. And so we use that and we've based all our numbers on that, the power of 10. Okay, before we continue on place value and notations with powers of 10, let's look at exponential notation. Exponential notation is taking numbers and doing repeated multiplication. As when we do multiplication, we're taking a number like 6 times 4 is the same thing as doing 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, which gives you 24. That's repeated addition, and that's what we get for multiplication. For exponential notation is doing the same thing except we're doing repeated multiplication. So if we take the number 10 times 10, you get 100. Now if we go 10 times 10 times 10, you get 1,000. Starting to see a little pattern there? Now we're going to go 10 times 10 times 10, and then times 10 again, you get 10,000. Now we're going to go 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 again. Guess it? You can already see where it's coming. 100,000. So if you look carefully, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we multiplied by 10. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. Now exponential notation would be written as this. 10 is the base, and then the exponent above would be the number of times that we are multiplying it together. So 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 would be 10 to the 5th. Here we have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. The base is 10, and we multiplied it 4 times, the 4th power of 4. Here we go, 10 times 10 times 10, which is a lot like doing volume. This would be 10, and then to the 3rd, or cubed. And then this is 10 times 10, which gives us 10, just like we're doing a base of a rectangle or a square, 10 squared. Okay, so as you can see, the exponential notation has a base, and that's the number that we're multiplying together. And then we have the number that is being multiplied is the exponent. That's exponential notation. All right, let's work a little bit with powers of 10. When we use exponential notation and we go a number like 3 times 10, you get 30. You've done that a few times. I'm sure you've learned that a long time ago. So now we're going to go 3 times 10 times 10, which is the same thing as 10 times 10, which is the same thing as 100, equals 300. Now we're going to try that again. Let's do 5 this time. So we're going to go 5 times 10 times 10 times 10. So that's the same thing as 10 times 10 times 10 is equals 5,000. Now again, this is 10 times 10 times 10 will be 10 to the 3rd, or 1,000. Okay, so let's try that again. So let's do 7 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So look at the numbers. So again, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. And then we've got times the 7. So that would be the same thing as 700,000. Now 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 would be the same thing as 10 to the 5th, which is equal to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100,000. So 10 to the fifth is the same as 100,000. Now, if you were to do this with any other number, remember that 10 times 10 equals 100, as does 10 times 10 times 10 is the same thing as 1,000. So basically, we've taken and wrote it as exponential notation, standard notation, or expanded notation. In past videos, we have taken a number like 56 and 4/10 and multiplied it by 10 and basically moved the decimal over, or the numbers over, so you get this times 10 gives you 4, 5, or 6, 5. So 564. 550 times 10 is 500. 6 times 10 is 60. 4/10 times 10 is 4. Now you can also do that by multiple tens. So if I did the same number times 10 again, which is the same thing as 100, I would move this over one more time. So this would be 4, 6, 5. So 10 or 5, 56 and 4/10 times 100 is equal to 5,640. And again, there's a decimal point right there. So now, if I'm going to do this multiple times, then it would be the same thing as 10 squared. Okay, so now let's try going the other way. Let's divide it. So if I'm going to divide this number by 10, you would move the decimals this way. And so 5,640 divided by 10 would give us 564, which would give us 564, and this is divided by 10. Now let's divide this by 100. So now we're going to divide it by another 10. So now we're going to go 564 would now be 56 and 4/10. Now again, this is the same thing as dividing by 100. So let's try that again. Okay, we're going to take 57 and 3/10 and multiply that by 10 to the third power. So to do that, we're basically doing this as the same thing as doing 10 with 3 zeros there, so 1,000. So we're multiplying it by 1,000. So what is 7 times 1,000? Would be 7,000. What's 50 times 1,000 would be 50,000. And 3/10 times 1,000 would be 300. And if you look carefully, as we lay out the numbers, we move this over, the 5 is over 1, 2, 3 spaces, same as the 1, 2, 3 zeros. 7 is 1, 2, 3 zeros, and the 3 is 1, 2, 3 spaces, and you can see how they have laid out with the number of zeros to give you the amount. And we can do it the other way around too, by dividing. So let's divide this by 10 squared, or 100. So again, we're going to divide this by 100. So 10,000 divided by 100, or 50,000 divided by 100 would be 1, 2 would be 500. 7,000 would be 70, and 300 would be 3. So 300 divided by 3 is, or 300 divided by 100 is 3. And then we add the 0 here. 0 divided by 0 is, there you go. All right, so we got 573 is the same thing as 57,300 divided by 100. Okay, so let's do a little multiplication. Let's do 356 times 1,000. Okay, if we were going to do this multiplication-wise using the standard method of multiplication, this would be 0 times 0 times that, so this would give you 0, 0, 0. Then we add another 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we go, now we've got another 0, so we got 1, 2, 3. So now we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so basically we're going to go 1 times 6, but we got to remember we've done 1, 2, 3, so we got to add 1, 2, 3 zeros there. Now we go 1 times 6, 1 times 5, 1 times 3. Okay, so now we add those up. 0, 0, 0, 6, 5, 3. Put the commas in there. So 356 times 1,000 is 356,000. Now, let's take a look at using powers of 10 to do the math. Okay, so let's practice multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. So we're going to take 356 and we're going to multiply that by 10 to the third power. Now again, 10 to the third power is the same thing as 1 with 3 zeros, or 3,000. So we're going to basically times 6 times 1,000 would be 6,000. So we know where we're headed. So this would be 6,000. 50 times 1,000 would be 50,000. And 300 times 1,000 would be 300,000. So then we basically have moved the decimal point over from this point once, twice, 3 times. So you can see we're once, twice, 3 times to where we get it right there. So that's moving the decimal point. Now we can also do it the other way around. We can divide. So let's divide this number by 10 to the fourth. Okay, so 10 to the fourth would be the same thing as 1 with 4 zeros, or 10,000. So we're going to take and divide this by 10,000. So this would be the same thing as moving the decimal point over 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, if we moved it over 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be 35 and 6/10, or 60 hundredths. Okay, so how did I get there? Well, if you take the number and you move the decimal point over from the over to the right, now we're going to move it to the left. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and that's where the decimal point would go. So we basically move this over once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to that spot. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So you can see how the decimal moved, but the numbers also did. So you can do either way. You can move the decimal, or you can move the numbers on the chart. So that's the easiest and most efficient way of doing multiplication and division using powers of 10.